Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am here with my friends Sandy Garing and Jonathan Winslow. I am Carissa Schwanekamp, and we are digital learning coaches with Keep Indiana Learning. And we wanted to put something together that we thought would benefit all teachers, no matter where you are in your career. And so we put together this Teacher Fuel package where every month our plan would be to kind of dive into a different topic and share resources that we think would be really beneficial. So we'll have things for new teachers, teachers that are 2 to 5 years, and then the veteran teachers out there. But as we were talking before this, we realized, oh man, all teachers can use all of these resources. So we hope that this helps light a little spark this time of year when you're probably about a quarter of the way through the school year, and maybe you're ready to try something new. So let's dig in. I'll go ahead and get started with some ideas for new teachers. I love to use Google Photos. You could really use any type of online photo albums, but this is a great way to show parents what's happening in the classroom and a way for them to feel connected because let's face it, especially as kids get older, parents aren't in the classroom as much volunteering. They may feel less connected, but through these pictures, they feel like they are a part of the learning journey that their kids are on. As a parent myself, I always love to look at pictures of my kids. I have a 5-year-old all the way to a sophomore in high school, and it's really nice to be able to see what they're doing at school so that I can talk to them about what's happening at school. It's also really neat to kind of compile these one week after another, so that at the end of the school year as a teacher, you can put these together, you can share them with your students, they can create digital albums or digital portfolios or scrapbooks of the year. So it is really a great way to connect with parents and to connect them to the learning that's happening in the classroom, because let's face it, parents probably care less about what vocabulary lesson you're on for the week, but would love to see pictures of their kids actually learning. A second thing that I think you should check out would be Flip. Flip is amazing, formerly Flipgrid, but so many great ways to use it in your classroom with the kids, but great ways to also connect your parents into your classroom. In the past, I've had students set their goals via Flip and then shared the videos back with parents. I've had kids film kind of mid-year reviews about how they think it's going. You can turn anything into a QR code, so instantly they can cut out the QR code. Last year, I had students film kind of a mid-year review. They cut out the QR code, made a card for their parents, and it kind of served as a little supplement to the report card. Like, here's how things are going from my point of view. Here's what I'm still working on. For Valentine's Day, I had the parents actually film surprise flips for the kids. So I sent a link home to the parents. They all filmed videos. I printed QR codes and then kind of hung them up all around the room. And then the kids were excited to come in and scan the videos from their parents. And then be ready. Some kids won't get videos back. Some kids won't get those things back. So be ready to film one for the kids that need those. But really, a lot of parent engagement and involvement with that. I just wanted to include this as some quick tips on how to get started with Flip. If you've never used it, it's completely free. You'll just set up your class, and then within your class, you can post different topics. So you would create a topic for kids to share about how things are going or their goals for the school year. And then you could create something different for the parents so that the kids can't see the parent videos, which is super easy to do. You can string a bunch of videos together in what they call a mixtape so that parents can view one video right after another if you want to share some learning that's happening in your classroom. And here's what I have found as a teacher. The more I do things like this, the more likely I'm going to have positive relationships with the parents. They feel included in what's happening, so that if I do have to make a difficult phone call or I do have to send that difficult email about something that's happening, I have their support from the get-go because they know I've tried to involve them in the learning process all along. One more slide about Flip would just be additional ideas. And I included this because maybe you want to use it even further than what I explained. I was doing sub plans. I was filming videos for the sub and then printing off QR codes for different times in the day. There's just so many things you can do. So feel free to steal some ideas from this slide as well. The last idea I will talk about before I pass it over to Jonathan would be using Google Forms. So if you're not a Google school, you can use the Microsoft version of whatever this would be. But as teachers, we're constantly collecting information, and it becomes difficult to collect paper after paper after paper. So I started to turn all of those forms into Google Forms. And so to start the year, I would always send something called Parents as Partners, and I would ask them important information like, tell me about your child through your eyes. What are 5 adjectives that describe your child? What motivates your child? What are their interests? Are they worried about anything as they come into 4th grade? And then it was just really great to have this. It automatically generates into a spreadsheet so I can go back and reference the information whenever I need. And it's just one more way for parents to feel like they are giving you this information without having to have a phone conversation or a lengthy email or an in-person conference, which are really hard to do these days with parent work schedules. I also started using this for permission slips when we would go places. That way, if we are on a field trip and I needed someone's contact information, it's generated into a spreadsheet. I can find it really quickly. So just thinking of ways where you can collect information a little bit easier than tracking down papers.
All right, we're gonna.
Yes. So I'm sorry, I forgot, Jonathan. I have a bonus slide idea or bonus ideas slide. Just a couple other things that I got to thinking about. Just another way to involve kids in keeping that bond between kids and parents, family members and teachers would be sending home note paper regularly for parents to write students encouraging messages. So back to school night, conference time. Right before we started to take iLearn in the last couple of years, I would send home a little postcard and ask parents to write encouraging messages to their child on it. And then the kids would look at it every day before we tested to be reminded just how much their parents support them. And then also having something ready to go for the kids that maybe don't get a note back from parents. And then postcard writing, have the kids learn their address. That is a big deal, understanding how to fill out, a postcard or a letter. And then they would write to their parents about what they learned. But just a couple other ideas as I was thinking about this that would be really great that you could take and use tomorrow in your classroom. But Jonathan, now you are ready.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing those ideas, Carissa. I was taking notes furiously on paper as I was listening to some of your ideas. I have 3 resources that I'm going to share with you today for the 2 to 5 year teacher experience range. And again, just as Carissa said, all of these resources are great for all levels. And all the resources that we're sharing today are going to be available in an infographic that is linked with this video. The slides and that infographic will be linked with the video. So if you feel like you're missing something, you'll be able to easily get back to those things. So the first resource I want to share with you is Edutopia article that's called Why a Positive Call Home is Worth the Effort. And one of my big takeaways from reading this article was that calling families takes time, and you may feel you don't have a second to spare. The trick is parceling it out and keeping track. So we all have full plates. Like, we are all busy. There is a lot happening. And if we don't make an effort to schedule time in to contact families, it's just not going to happen. So that really helped me think about being intentional about ensuring that I reach out to parents often so that we can have those conversations and start to build those connections with one another. And it not always being negative. One of the things in my classroom that I always worked towards every year was to make a positive contact with a parent early on in the year for every student. And it took me parceling out that time. So I would try to do like 1 per day for the first quarter, and that would allow me to get to all of my students within that first quarter. And it also helped me to make sure that the first time a parent was hearing from me was not a negative experience. It was a positive one, so that we can start to build that positive rapport with one another. The second resource is a video. And in this video, there are lots of different ways that you can learn about that teachers are using to connect with families. So it's about a 30-minute video, but you're going to get to see real classroom footage. You'll get to see real teachers in the field talking through how they connect with parents. And I would definitely recommend checking this out in more detail. One of my big takeaways, as Carissa kind of already alluded to, was portfolios are a great way for families to see the story of learning that is happening within the classroom. We can do that through photos, and we can do that through student work. So when we can kind of huddle around with a parent and look at student work and talk about what we're seeing in that student work, it can be really powerful. One of my favorite things to do when I had a parent-teacher conference was to have a recorded video of my students reading so that we could talk about all of the things that they were doing so well and the things that we could work on together at school and at home with each other. And then the third resource is from one of my favorite podcasts, The Cult of Pedagogy with Jennifer Gonzalez. If you have not ever listened to that podcast, I strongly recommend it. This podcast episode is called The Magic of Validation. And it's not necessarily geared towards parents per se, but it's geared towards making sure that people feel validated in the feelings that they have towards certain things. And that absolutely is applicable to our parent conferences and our parent conversations that we have with one another. So one of the big quotes from this podcast that I just loved and stuck with me is, people want to be understood, they want to feel heard. And we can help people feel heard and understood. We can go a long way together. So all of those resources, again, are going to be linked, and I'm going to turn over to Sandy as she talks about 3 more resources.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Krista and Jonathan. Krista, I am with you on Flip. I absolutely think it is an underutilized tool that can really bring our families together, letting them talk about their differences as families and learn about other cultures. Even being able to, I think a lot about my sister's family that is in Florida, or when they were in Hawaii. What a great way to even be able to share with the broader family, or a big brother, big sister type program. So I love that idea, Carissa. And Jonathan, I am 100% with you on a phone call home. I think this really launches my section, which is the veteran teachers. And I go back to the time before email, when we just had to call home, and email has made things so much easier, but to just be able to call home, and I know it takes time, 100%, but sometimes that voice, if it is a positive or a challenge phone call, your voice can switch the whole conversation. So Jonathan and Carissa, I love those 2 ideas, and I'm going to jump in with a couple more. And so the first one that I wanted to talk about is an article about by TeachStarter called How to Build a Parent-Teacher Relationship That Will Help. And what I really like about this article is it gives you some really broken down ways on how to really dig in deeper with each of those pieces. So the first one is really thinking about being mindful of different families. We come across a lot of different families and a lot of different situations. So as we are working with our families, really thinking about considering backgrounds, considering languages spoken. One of the things that I really like to be mindful about is being cautious of not only using the word parent. Make sure we're really thinking parents and guardians. A lot of our families are going through those different transitional pieces. So really thinking about when I'm reaching out to my families, including everybody. Some other pieces from this article that I really love are making sure that you're sharing, like both Chris and Jonathan have said, the positives, and you can still incorporate those areas for growth with parents, but think about how you can do that in that positive manner. Really being mindful and showing your parents your appreciation, and really thinking about how you can continue to provide them with tools on how to help their kiddo. Just like Carissa said, they don't always want you to tell them their spelling list. That's great. Like give the spelling list, maybe do it in a creative way. Use Flip, incorporate it into the tool that you're going to share with parents. And then the other one for me that I really am guilty of is stick with one way. Decide how you're going to communicate with parents at the beginning and stick with it. Don't try and get creative along the way. Sometimes that's fun and we think parents might like it, but they want that consistent way. So that's my first tip, my first idea. The second one is the app Blooms. And when we go back again with our veteran teachers, as a veteran teacher myself, we got thrown and shown all of these different tools along the way. because we were in that age of everything new. And so we might be using Seesaw, and I might be using Class Dojo, and I might be using this tool and that tool. And is there a way to work smarter for myself and for my parents, instead of having parents figure out, 5 different passwords and guardians having to figure out 5 different things? How could we capture it all into one? And Blooms is just one app that really brings it all together. So I can communicate with my parents. I can send pictures with my parents and guardians. I can also do my classroom management within Blooms. And there are other tools out there that do the same thing, but just find that one that fits for you and brings it all together into one spot. So try that one out. And then the last one that I have really honestly like have fallen in love with is Microsoft and kind of the whole Microsoft suite. And what I love about this is it really helps support our families that are English language families. So when it comes time for conference time, and we all know we have seen an influx in our English language learners, and we're going to continue to see that, which is exciting. But it is hard to communicate often with our parents. And so when we're using the translator app, and there are lots of different apps out there, but I like this one because it is simple, it's easy, and you can use it through multiple platforms. So with Flip, what I love about Flip and and Microsoft is I can put a QR code right there, and it will help translate everything that I have on my Flip for my parents to scan. If it's conference time, we can talk with our parents on, hey, pull out your phone, let's have this conversation that way. Even though we know that we legally have to have somebody there to translate with us, unfortunately, that's not always the case. So use the translator app so that you can engage in that meaningful conversation with your families. And the other piece that I like too is you could show parents how to utilize that on their device and be able to translate documents right there for them. Google does it as well. There are lots of different tools that do it. I just like that the translator has, or Microsoft has it all built into one. So that's my last big takeaway from there. And lastly, just make sure that you keep following us, keep staying in touch. We're going to do this throughout the entire year. So stay tuned for what we have coming up, for those different tips that we have for our new teachers, for our 3 to 5 teachers, and for our veteran teachers on ways to continue to grow ourselves as professionals. Feel free to scan that QR code, and there's a brief survey that you can take a look at, so that you can give us some feedback on maybe what you would like to see. If you try any of these tools out, we would love to hear about it. So make sure that you use X or Twitter at Keep Indiana Learning. Share it on Instagram. We're all following those, and we'd love to see it. And below, you also have each of our contacts, so you can reach out to us that way. Let us know if you tried it out. That's the most exciting thing for us. And we also learn from you all when you do that. So share that with us. If you have some ideas on something else you'd like to try, share that as well. And again, just connect with us. We're here for you. We love what we do. And so we would love to get to know how each of these things are being incorporated into your classroom. So thank you so much, Krista, Jonathan. Thank you so much for your ideas. Can't wait to continue our conversation. Thank you. See you all next time. Bye.